Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's wonderful to see you all here and not see you all out there. I can't see you, but you can see us. And you're always free to come on in. It's beautiful in here. So this Shabbat has become a very special Shabbat for many reasons, but one is that it's actually between Yom HaShoah, the day we commemorate the Holocaust, and Yom HaAtzmaut, the day we celebrate the establishment of the State of Israel. And it's actually taken on a name within our calendar called Yom Tekumah, the day of revival, because it is from the darkness of Holocaust that has helped revive us into the State of Israel and to our Jewish communities here. And this evening here for our Shabbat, we have a baby who's going to be named up here, beginning her journey. And we have two wonderful young men who are going to begin their Shabbat of Bar Mitzvah. And we have a wonderful speaker who will share with us her journey from the darkness into the joy and light of life today. So this is definitely Shabbat Tekumah, a revival of Shabbat and a revival of spirit. And so we're going to begin on page 2. I would like to welcome our two bar mitzvahs, Aston and Jordan, and their families to come forward with a cantor, and they will begin our Shabbat by helping us light the Shabbat candles and bless over the Shabbat Kiddush wine.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter the sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Amen. And we turn to page 5 for the Kiddush.
Vayehi Erev, Vayehi Voker, Yom HaShishi. The whole thing. Vechulo HaShamayim V'Haaretz, Vechol Tzva'am, Vayechol Elohim Bayom HaShvi'i, Malchuto Asher Asa, V'Shabbat Bayom HaShvi'i, Mekol Malchuto Asher Asa, Vevarech Elohim Et Yom HaShvi'i, V'Kadesh Ot Ki Vo Shabbat Mekol Malchuto Asher Bara Elohim La'asot.
And there was evening, and there was morning, the 6th day. The heaven and the earth were finished, and all their array. On the 7th day, God finished the work that God had been doing. And God ceased on the 7th day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the 7th day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kideshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh voreshit ki hu yom tehila lemikra ekodesh zecher ledziat mitzrayim
Kivanu v'harta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim
v'shabbat kodsha
ve'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu.
Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat.
Amen. L'chaim. And while they're enjoying that, I want to share with you a poem that Dr. Miriam Klein-Kassenoff wrote recently about the children of Ukraine as an ode, and it is a description of from darkness to light. I see small children running and hiding and crossing borders and holding on tight to their parents, carrying little suitcases of meager belongings, and my heart cries as I watch. I see young mothers clutching infants in their arms and the fear on their face, whether they will survive this atrocity from this madman, and my heart cries as I watch. I see small children handed over borders and fences to strangers as mothers plead, "Please save my child," and my heart cries as I watch. But fear not, small children, because you will survive, and you will remember this always. And you will fight when you grow up that something like this should not happen again. My heart lifts because I know this is what will happen, because I was once you, running and hiding and escaping and clutching my mother's hand while the madman was chasing us. In my case, only because I was a Jew. But in the end, the madman didn't get us. In the end, it was he who did not survive. But I did survive, and you will too. And for generations to come, you will tell of this, and your survival, and the survival of your children and grandchildren will be the revenge to this madman's atrocities. You will grow up, you will thrive, and educate, and live a good life. Halavai, that is true for all those children in the Ukraine and elsewhere. We welcome Shabbat now, to lift our spirits by turning to pages 20 and 21. For Lecha Dodi, we'll be doing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And on the 9th verse, when we get to it, our custom is to rise and face our opening and welcome in all those who are still waiting to enter the sanctuary and to welcome the Sabbath bride.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabela. Once more. Lecha Dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat Shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad hishmianu el hamyuchad Adonai echad ushmo echad l'shem ultiferet v'litchila lecha Dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat Lechu v'nelcha ki hi mekor Abraham merosh mikedem Nesucha sof ma'aseh v'machshava tchila Lecha Dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabela Hitoreri kiva orech Kumi ori Shir daberi kivod Adonai Alai yitnika lecha Dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabela Dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabela Boi v'shalom ateret ba'ala gam b'simcha ובצולה תוך אמוני המסגולה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה.
We remain standing for the call to worship on page 28.
Yalla lai lai lai, 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 yalla lai lai lai. Yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai
Please be seated. Continue for those who have the reading on page 30. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time, and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day and night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening.
Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Haravim.
And on pages 34 and 35, we find those 6 words in Hebrew that are so familiar to many of us. We say it, some of us, evening and morning. And it is a tradition that our B'nai Mitzvah come forward and help lead us. Our custom now is that if it is your tradition to stand, you may stand. If your tradition is to stay seated for the Shema, we ask you to follow your custom.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavecha uvchol nafshecha uvchol meodecha ve'hayu hadevarim ha'ele asher anochi mesavecha hayom al levavecha Veshinatam levanecha v'dibarta bam Beshivtecha bebetecha uvlechtecha baderech ushombecha uvkumecha Ukshartam leot al yadecha vehayu letotafot bein einecha Uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha Leman tizkeru v'asivtem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'Elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Wonderful. Great job, guys. Look, you got applause. I mean, how often does that happen? I wish I was that good at my bar mitzvah. Wonderful. I know tomorrow will be a beautiful, beautiful day for not only the two of you, but your family, friends, all those who are going to come and celebrate your bar mitzvah with you. And so we turn now to that prayer that we just really had revisited this moment The moment of the crossing of the Sea of Reeds when we had Passover, just not so many days ago. And it wasn't just about the matzah, it was about the liberation, about the freedom, and standing on the shore of the sea and reminding ourselves of what had just happened, of what had happened in that experience in Egypt, and that now we stood in freedom, and what the implications of that was. And it overwhelmed our people. They were so overwhelmed that they sang and they danced. Even not knowing all that was in front of them, they still had the desert experience. But they were overjoyed at that moment. And we take these words they sang and we use them in our prayer service. So we turn to page 40 for Mi Chamocha.
Mi Chamocha Boilim Adonai, Mi Chamocha Neder B'Kodesh, Nora Tehilot Osei Fele Nora Tehilot Osei Fele Malachutecha Ra'uvanecha Bokei Ayam Livnei Moshe Miriam Zeli Anu Ve'ameru Adonai Yimloch Leolam Vaed Adonai Yimloch Leolam Vaed V'nemar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov U'galo miyad chazak mimenu Baruch Adonai Gal Yisrael.
Amen. We turn to page 46 for the core prayer of our service, the tefillah. Please rise.
Adonai sevatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibur v'Hanora, El Elyon, Go Melech Hasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot Ve'imahot, Umevi geula livnei v'neihem lema'an shemo be'ahava. Melech ozer u'moshia u'magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor leolam Adonai Mechayei hakol atah rav lahoshia Morid hatal Mechalkel chayim bechesed Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim Somech noflim verofech holim Umatir asurim Umekayeh mehemunato Lishenei Afar Michamocha Baal Gevurot Umidom Elach Melech memid umechaye umatzmiach Yeshua v'nemanat al hachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai mechaye hakol Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kadoshim b'chol yom yehalaluhu chasela Baruch atah Adonai ha'el HaKadosh.
We take a quiet moment now to either read the prayers through page 60 or prayers of our own hearts. And when we finish this part of the prayer service, each may be seated.
Anim, amim, anim, amim. True, this history has no words. Yet we know that it has to be spoken. We gather for memory to lift up the lives that were broken. Those gone too soon, we bring into this room to say to the world they were here, a promise we'll keep every year. Too many names to name, numbers too hard to handle, but we can at least light a yellow candle on Yom HaShoah. Family trees cut down, horror too hard to handle, but we hold their light in a yellow candle on Yom HaShoah. Shoah means catastrophe, whirlwind and calamity, utter devastation, a time without reason. In the year 1953, Ben-Gurion signed a new decree to mark an anniversary, the 27th of Nisan. At 10 a.m., the sirens wail in the streets of Israel. The people stop, the cranes stand still, the flags are dropped. We always will remember, remember. The people stop, the cranes hang still, the flags are dropped. We always will remember, remember. Yom hazikaron lashoah velagevurah. Yom hazikaron lashoah velagevurah. True, we can't undo what's done, but we know that our task is to tell it. We gather in sorrow, knowing we'll never dispel it. Remembrance is strong, and sometimes a song can bind us to whom came before, remind us what memory's for. Too many names to name, numbers too hard to handle, but we can at least light a yellow candle on Yom HaShoah. Family trees cut down, horror too hard to handle, but we hold their light in a yellow candle on Yom HaShoah. On Yom HaShoah.
Thank you, Cantor. Our speaker this evening, Dr. Miriam Klein-Kassenoff, is one of the, bless you, is one of the youngest of the survivors, of the refugee survivors of the Holocaust. But it's not just enough to be a survivor. She has lived out the commandments to remember in a very Jewish way. According to Yehuda Kurtzer of the Hartman Institute, he said there are three aspects to Jewish memory. One is zachor, to remember b'peh, with your mouth, to speak, to say words, to tell memories. And the other is lo tishkach, don't forget, belev, internalize it. Bring it inside of you. Let it be a part of your life so that you feel it. But that's also not enough, because more importantly, it says timche. You must have a responsibility. You must take action for that memory. And Miriam has done all of that and continues to do that. She's not only the founding director of the Miami Holocaust Teacher Institute, she's really responsible for all of Miami-Dade children and staff and teachers learning how to understand and teach the Holocaust. If your children had any lessons in Holocaust in Miami-Dade, Miriam really was responsible and is responsible for all of that, plus so much more, the Holocaust Memorial, so many things that she's done. We also treasure her as an honored member of our congregation, and we've invited her to tell you her journey, her story. Miriam, I'd ask you to come forward.
Thank you, Rabbi Glickstein. I know you don't know this, but my father, who was a rabbi here in Miami Beach at Temple Emmanuel, some of you may have remembered him, the late Rabbi Maurice Klein. Before he died, he told me those three things.
Oh, there you go.
And I wasn't going to get up here and cry, so. Rabbi Glickstein, Cantor Siegel, Rabbi Pomerantz, watching tonight, My Panim group, how nice of you to be here for support. Thank you so much. And dear fellow congregants and the children here today, I have a story to tell you. It's a true story. It's a testimonial that we call in Holocaust lexicon of how I escaped Nazi Europe on the eve of the Holocaust and how I ended up here tonight with you. I forgot my water and I'm going to need it. I will never forget, young as I was, the night the Hungarian Nazi police banged on our family door on a Shabbat evening like tonight in 1940 and took my father, Rabbi Moshe Klein, to a Hungarian forced labor camp run by the Nazis. It was called Sharash Potok. How could I forget that night? 2 years after Kristallnacht. How could I forget my mother screaming and suddenly hiding me in a closet? Why, I asked. Why are you hiding me? Why did this happen? Why was my dad taken, and why do I have to hide? Because we are Jews, said my mother, and that was my first introduction and confrontation with anti-Semitism. Then, I will never forget, in November 1940, when my father, looking gaunt and worn, rushed in the door and said that he had escaped the camp and that we had to immediately leave Košice, Slovakia. He said we must run because if he was caught, it would be ultimate death. He, as an Orthodox Jew in the camp, had learned through a network of information that ultimately Jews would be taken throughout Eastern Europe to ghettos and camps, and most likely to their death. So thus began the journey we were to take alone as a small family. My mother, Sarah, my father, Maurice, me, I was called Morika at that time, and my 4-year-old infant baby brother, who many of you might remember today as the late federal judge Ted Klein. But at that time, it was Tibor, and he was only 9 months old. It was a harrowing journey of 7 months through 7 countries on foot and train. Our goal? We were trying to get to Lisbon, Portugal, where there were ships waiting sponsored by the Hayas, the Hebrew Immigration Aid Society, to take Jews to safety if one could make it to Lisbon with the challenges. I also will never forget my mother taking me to her twin sister, Lily, my aunt, and begging her to come with her husband and their 2 small children with us. I will never forget my mother saying to her, "Come, we have to leave." And Lily saying, "Are you crazy? What will happen to me staying here will surely happen to you on the road. I stay." And there is the answer to the often asked question, why didn't the Jews just leave? As the scholar Dr. Michael Birnbaum says, and I quote, "The pessimists left and the optimists stayed, and they were murdered." We left without them. I never saw or have seen my Aunt Lily again. And my mother spent her life right here on Miami Beach on Lincoln Road. She lived in Decoplage, screaming with nightmares for her twin sister Lily, who we are certain now died in Auschwitz. And so we left Košice, Slovakia. Now, we had passenger reservations to board a famous ship leaving Lisbon called the Nyasa. It was to leave on April 15th, 1941, and this was December 1940. So we surely had plenty of time to get to Lisbon. However, as we were rushing and running to make the deadline of our visa entry papers into Lisbon, Portugal expired on January 18th, 1941, because of train delays and many more unexpected events. We missed the deadline. Thus, we arrived in the border of Spain on January 20th, 1941, and found ourselves helplessly and frustratingly stopped in our journey. The border guards in Spain often sent Jews back for their countries. However, they could be bribed, and so my father took the last of his money and he bribed them to let us stay in a hotel in Spain until we could figure out what to do, whether we were going to be able to get into Lisbon or would we have to go back to Czechoslovakia. While in that hotel, Nacional was the name of it, in Badajoz, Spain, my father met a sympathetic, non-Nazi Christian German who just felt terrible for this little family. And he offered to help my dad write a letter to the Jewish community of Lisbon. Let me read to you a piece of that very important document. We are a Jewish family from Hungary on the way to the United States, escaping to freedom. Unfortunately, the visa ran only to the 18th of January, and because of train delays, we only arrived here on the 20th, and we cannot proceed any further. We are here with 2 small children, a 5-year-old little girl and a baby boy of 10 months. The children suffer from hunger. We are used to hunger, but it is tragic to see how my children, innocent children, are suffering from hunger. If it is possible, please help your Jewish brothers, because the situation is tragic. We are not even in a place to pay for the hotel because I don't have any money. Our money's gone. We have money in a Lisbon bank, but we can't get into Lisbon. Please, my Jewish brothers, please attempt to help me. Well, it appears that that letter finally reached the Jewish community of Lisbon, and from the chronology of the letter, it was now February 15th, 1941, and we got into Lisbon. After running throughout Eastern Europe, always one step ahead of the Nazis. Note, we went through Hungary, Yugoslavia, Italy, France, and Spain. We had been on the road for 3 months, and as I previously mentioned, the ship we had reservations for was to leave April 15th. So we still had time to make the ship, just not the entire paid ticket we were to discover, which was at that time $1,000. In addition, we had one more problem. Our visa entry papers to come here to the United States also were expired. So what did we do? There were about 1,500 Jews living in Lisbon. They were very kind people, and they put us into tourist hotels on the outside of Portugal. For me, as a child, my memories are of much anxiety, fear, and insecurity, listening to my parents speaking in Yiddish and Hungarian about what would become of us. The government officials, according to one testimony I read, wanted to put all of us refugees in prison, but the local Jewish community leaders of Lisbon would not have it. I remember my dad and my mom every day going into Lisbon, leaving me as a little 5-year-old to watch the baby brother, Tibor, while they went to get paperwork and try to get us on a ship. But as we watched from the shoreline, ships kept leaving, but not with us. Finally, on May 15th, we boarded a ship called the Ciudad de Seville. It was one of the last few ships to leave Lisbon in 1941, bringing Jews to safety. Had it been just 6 months later, 1942, the final solution to murder all the Jews of Europe happened. We made it just in time. I quote to you as I end from my mother's memories and from a book written by Gloria Goldreich, what the trip was like on the boat, on the ship. The dangers that lay ahead from the moment we left Lisbon and boarded the ship assaulted the passengers. Rumors circulated that there was a shortage of drinking water, and passengers panicked as distraught mothers worried about their small children. The ship could not sail a direct course because the German Navy had turned the Atlantic Ocean into a battlefield. Submarines lurked beneath rising and falling waves, stalking freighters and passenger ships. The seas turned turbulent, and the ship plowed through storms, heaving dangerously. Many were sick from the turbulence, and when the storm subsided and the sea was calm, the observant Jews were seen on deck, as my father was, putting on their talit, their prayer shawls, their yarmulkes, and praying to God to get us to safety after all we had been through, just not to die on the ship or be thrown into the ocean. My mother was terrified. She didn't let me out of her sight. I remember that. Finally, our family realized New York. We had arrived safely in America. June 1941. So what became of the Klein family left behind? Of the 15,000 Jews of Košice, Slovakia, 12,000 were immediately gassed upon their arrival on a transport in 1944 in Auschwitz, the same train that Elie Wiesel was on. 300 of those Jews returned to Košice immediately after the war. Among them were 6 of the Klein family, who all ultimately immigrated to Israel, Bolivia, and the United States. But no, we never heard from my Aunt Lily or her 2 small girls, my cousins, ever again, gone to the fires of Auschwitz. As I stand before you now, I want to tell you that ultimately we got to Miami many years later. My father was the late Rabbi Maurice Klein from Temple Emmanuel. My brother, the baby, became the federal judge Ted Klein. We had an American baby who's now my brother Hank Klein, who some of you might know, a local businessman, and I'm me. As I stand before you now, I am the only one left from this family. Mom's gone, Ted's gone. He tragically died 10 years ago, and Dad's gone. So I'm the only one left. Of the 4 who ran, hid, and escaped, I'm still standing, still working, still lecturing, still talking. Why have I been spared in these last years? I don't know. But I must only assume it is to tell the story to you, so you then will never forget. I once heard a refugee child survivor of the Holocaust say, "The experience of my parents is woven through the fabric of my soul, and I am compelled to tell it to the world and to you." Thank you and good Shabbos.
Thank you, Mary. That's beautiful. Amy will help you now. Go ahead. Thank you, Miriam, for reminding us, and also reminding us that there was not only terror but salvation for you and your family, not for many others, but there were some who survived and built new lives here. And so this is a moment in the service when we affirm the joy in our lives with Shehechianu. Certainly your parents must have said Shehechianu at some point when they stepped foot either on the boat or on the shore, or when they saw Lady Liberty or whatever it was. And we have our moments to say Shehechianu. And so as we're about to say that, I would ask any of you who have a reason to say Shehechianu to stand so that I can hear, and I'll let the people who are not here but are watching know what your Shehechianu moments are. So stand. Tell me something. Yes?
We're thankful for this wonderful weekend in which we celebrate the bar mitzvah of our grandson, Aston.
Wonderful bar mitzvah of Aston. And another wonderful bar mitzvah. We have two. You get to say it. Wonderful. We have two wonderful families celebrating bar mitzvahs. And we have another over here.
My mother was a Holocaust survivor, and it's just so wonderful.
And she's come to be named today in your mother's memory.
Yes.
Well, that's wonderful. That's a perfect day, perfect circle, Paul.
Her daughter Ricky's college graduation.
Mazel tov, a college graduation, Ricky. Anyone else? Anyone else want to share? Okay, well, yes. Gail?
It's just wonderful to be able to be here and to have so many friends here and family, and listening to Miriam, just such a magnificent delivery. And I was very happy to know many survivors.
And Gail is happy to be here and to hear Miriam and to know many survivors. Our bar mitzvah has stood. That's good.
Thankful to have my family here and virtually celebrating bar mitzvah.
Wonderful. He's happy with his bar mitzvah. You don't have to. You're going to say ditto, right? What he said, right? That's a good man. So let's sing Shehechianu and remind ourselves.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Amen.
And so as you hear, she's ready to come up. She's been ready for quite a while. So we're going to ask Bee to come up and bring her parents and her grandparents and is her aunt here? Yeah, come on up, Danielle. So this is B. Moriber Wendling, BMW. Pretty good name. So we're going to bring her up here. And that's reason enough to say Shehechianu, but I get to say Shehechianu because this beautiful mother, I named her. And her bat mitzvah, and the wedding, and now I get to go for a full cycle. That's really just a wonderful moment for me. Grandparents coming up. So since I want to get close to her, and she certainly has not been inoculated, let's use this. If we could have, oh really? Is it okay? All right. There we are. We can use that. So look at you, beautiful girl. When your name is Bee. Isn't that a wonderful name? Named after your bubby Betty? Your great bubby Betty, right? And Pop Pop, right? You have all these wonderful names, and we're going to hear a little more about them. So let's do a little blessing for you, right? We have a talit. Now this talit comes from Israel and was at your bat mitzvah. And so when we were able to do that, we wrapped you in that tallit. Now we're going to wrap your daughter in that tallit. So go ahead, Kyle. You want to just wrap her around? Okay. Beautiful. You know, you don't have to put it in her face. It's okay. Oh, there you are. It's okay. It's all right. Hold on to mommy. Yeah, it's a good place to be. Right, that's right. Hello, how are you? I know you want the microphone because you want to talk already, right? So we have this wonderful moment. You guys can come a little closer if you would like. And so there are three names that we give to our child. We like threes. The first name is your formal name. So that's B, right? And we're going to give you your Hebrew name in a minute. And then there's the name that your parents call you. I don't know if they call you Tzatzkala, Bubala. I know they call you Bumblebee, right? Because that's a wonderful name for you. But then the most important name is the name you're going to earn yourself, which is the name of your Shem Tov, your good name that you'll earn by your life. And so I want to have your parents come here and speak a few words about you before we bless you. So Sam, if you would.
B, your name was a long time in the making, and while we knew there was a lot of meaning to it, like you, it keeps surprising us with more. I'll stick to the highlights for now, and we can unravel the rest another time.
She really wants to talk.
We'll start. Let's start with the Hebrew, Devorah. The literal translation for B is also a beautiful name. It also happens to be your Aunt Fanny's Hebrew name, which she so graciously agreed to share. In the Bible, Devorah is a prophet and a judge. Your Grandma Cheryl's maiden name is also Judge. Now to the English, B. Morber Wendling. You're named after my Papa Bert and Bubby Betty, the sweetest, kindest, and gentlest person I ever knew. As someone who survived the Holocaust, she had so many reasons to be bitter, but was just the opposite. She chose to love and uplift others. In the 18 years that I was with her, I don't think I ever saw her unkind to anyone. She was born on December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day. You were born on Shabbat Shuvah and September 11th at 12:10 a.m. I tried so hard to push you out on September 10th. I remember looking at the clock in disbelief that I was missing it by just 10 minutes. I didn't want your birthday to be clouded by a somber day of remembrance. But as soon as I saw you, I realized just how wrong that was. Because just like Bubby Betty, you're a constant reminder of the beauty that can exist even where there's pain, good's triumph over evil, and the blessings all around us. I love you forever. I like you for always. As long as you're living, my baby you'll be.
Kyle, you want to share some words?
Yeah, and unlike you, I knew there were going to be tears. B, Devorah. I'm so grateful God has blessed you with us in our lives. From the moment I laid eyes on you, my world changed forever. You became the center of my universe, and that will never change. I'm so excited to watch what type of incredible woman you grow into, but please don't do it too quickly. Your mother is the most amazing woman I've known, and she will love you more than you can ever imagine. And you should always know that, and you certainly should take after her. My promise to you is that I will do my best to help guide you in life and to live as an example that you can be proud of. I will not dictate rules, but try to teach and explain. I will try to never say, because I said so. I promise to always love you unconditionally. My hope for you is that you live a happy and fulfilled life, that you become an incredible woman, which I know you will, and an outstanding member of our community. You learn to overcome the struggles that life will throw you, and one day you'll have a child that brings you as much joy as you do us.
Wonderful, beautiful, and I have to say the tears are wonderful. And speaking as a father of a daughter, I can say that as well. So let's bless her. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, our God and God of our ancestors. Kayemet yalda hazot la'aviho le'ima, establish this beautiful little girl to her mother, father, and her kol mishpacha that are here, her whole family. Vayikaresh shma b'Yisrael, may her name be known, as you heard, as Devorah, bat Shmuel Chana v'Yosef. Zoda Ketana Gedola Tiye, this one who is now still little, may you become Gedola, not just good and big, but great. May you find the greatness God has ordained for you. And now we're going to bless her. If you would repeat these words after me. Kishem, Shenich Nasa, Labrit, Ken, Tikanes, La Torah, La Chupa, Ulama'asim Tovim. Amen. What we said is, just as you have entered into this covenantal relationship with God, so may you find a life of Torah. That's really your job, to teach her values. Teach her to be a mensch, right? She can learn to read and write outside, but she has to learn menschkeit with you. And then the thing we wish for you is that you find a loving partner in your life. That's the chuppah. But the most important thing we want is masim tovim from you, B. We want good deeds with these hands. We want you to do the right thing in life. So now we're going to actually bless her with the same blessing I used for you when you were born, and the same blessing I used for you at your bat mitzvah and your wedding. It's the priestly benediction. You ready for that? So put your hands somewhere around her. Grandparents, Danielle, come on. Get close to her. Yivarechacha Adonai v'yishmerecha, may God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka, may God shed the light of his countenance upon you and be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom, may God lift up his countenance upon you and grant you peace. And we say, Amen. Mazel tov.
Simen tov, a mazel tov, a mazel tov, a simen tov, a mazel tov, a simen tov, a mazel tov, a simen tov, yay, lanu. Simen tov, a mazel tov, a simen tov, a mazel tov, a simen tov,
You guys can have them
a mazel
sign.
tov, a simen tov, yay, lanu.
So if you would all stay up here, go up to the ark, open those doors, and let's all stand for Aleinu. What page is that on, Cantor? It'll be up here.
282.
282. Please rise.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kigoyei aratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'goraleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. V'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol ha'aretz bayom hahu Yeh Adonai echad, Ushemo echad. Please be seated. Before we get to Kaddish, we have one final privilege. We are in the period called the Omer, and that it's called Sfirat Omer, the counting of the Omer. And we announced that for those of you that have the prayer book. So it's on page 278. And we're announcing that tonight is Arba Asar Yom. It's the 14th day, Shnei Shavuot, the second 2 weeks of the Omer, on our way to 49 days so that we can get to Shavuot. Cantor? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sefirat haomer hayom Arba'asar Yom Shehem Shnei Shavuot Laomer. Today is 14 days, which are 2 weeks of the Omer.
So we are at the Kaddish now, and we certainly have dealt with a number of issues tonight, many of them wonderful and beautiful, many of them painful and difficult, but that is the nature of life. And we certainly wish for all of those who are in pain and suffering here and around the world that they find complete healing. But we're turning now to our Kaddish prayer, and that is another form of memory. Just as we heard from Miriam, the memory she holds of her life, but also of those who are no longer physically here. She still holds them, and we hold individuals in our lives as well. And this is a moment, as we're about to re-enter into the world, that we think of those individuals that we remember. The Kaddish is on page 294, and we think first and foremost of those who have died in years past and whose names have been placed lovingly by their families in our memorial alcove, and their yahrzeit falls at this time. Charles Bernstein, Carl Chesler, Bert Cohen, Robert Cooper, Lotta Deutelbaum, Julius Deutelbaum, Sam Dwers, Louis Ader Weissman, J. Frank Fine, Deborah Simone Fraden, Gertrude Ginsburg, Phyllis Gross, Alexander Gut, Ruth Hirsch, Dora Huberman, Jay Lester, Philip Lewis, Elias Menkes, Needle Steele Nance, Joseph Palgon, David Jacob Reynolds, Marion Rosenberg, Harry Rosenblatt, Cressy Kotler Rothbart, Philippe Sanchez, Jonathan Yoiko Waxman, Sadie Walsh, Miriam Weiss, Hermina Davidovitz Wiesner. And we remember the following whose yahrzeits fall during this time: Zev Beichman, Greta Burkow, Ruth Altman Broadbent, Leo Chesler, Morris R. Cohen, Sig M. Guckstad, Leonard Gross, Anna Haber, Oscar Henschel, Abraham Yankowitz, Samuel J. Keaty, Meyer Kotler, Helene Lifter, Helen Littman, Morris Milstein, Jean Munchik, Minnie Perel, Celia K. Ross, Regina Samet, Mary Cicerek, Ronnie Shapiro, Morton I. Singerman, Philip Sluitt, Adele Joseph Spiegel, Isidore Stoneberg, Max Tepper, Solomon Wald, Nathan Waldman, Sam Weisbord. And finally, we remember those who've died in the last 30 days who are in the Shloshim of their mourning: Judith Freeman, Shulamit Klein, Marjorie Shepard, Jenny Bronstein Milland, Jerry Kaplan, Hugo Morales. And we remember the name of the Marine, the U.S. Marine that was just killed in the Ukraine, Willie Joseph Cancel, who was 22 and who left a 7-month-old and a wife. And here we just celebrated the beauty of a new life. We think of all those who are victims of terrorism in Israel and around the world, those who are victims of gun violence here. And we remember American and Israeli soldiers who have died in defending freedom and liberty. I'll ask those of you who have yahrzeits or would like to share names to please rise now if you want. I will call on you before we say Kaddish. Yeah? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And now if we would all rise for the Kaddish, page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah Be'alma divra hirute v'yamlich malchute b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala u'v'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehi Shemei Rabba Mevarach Leolam Ula'alme Almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yithalal Shemei Dekudsha Barichu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran b'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort the bereaved here and everywhere with God's blessing of peace. And we say, amen. Please be seated. Actually, do we have someone from the board? Yes. Oh, you're going to, there you are. I didn't get your name. No one said anything. Surprise. I was surprised. You weren't.
I was surprised. Hello, everyone. Hello. So every time I'm up here to give board announcements, I always say it's my favorite part of being a board member, which it is my favorite part of being a board member. But tonight, it's the best time I've ever given announcements tonight. It's super special, so for so many reasons. So first, I want to thank Miriam for coming to speak to us tonight and telling her story, and really for ensuring that all schools in Miami-Dade learn about the Holocaust, which my boys have both taken advantage of, to actually time and time again. So thank you so much, first of all. B and B's family, that is so special and so cool that your mom was not only named and bat mitzvahed and married here, but such beautiful words about B, and she's so beautiful, and I wish her just an amazing life. I'm sure she will. You obviously have amazing parents, amazing. And to Aston, I've known you since you were like this big. You're gonna do amazing tomorrow, and your family, Adina and Justin and everyone else. I'm really happy, and I'm really glad that we get to share this day tomorrow together, all in celebration. And to my family, congratulations to my son, who I know is gonna do an amazing job tomorrow. He's practiced, and he's gonna do amazing. And I'm just so happy that my entire family is here all in one place together and having everyone I love in one place. So, yay, mazel tov to me and to my whole family. I'm so happy. On to the other announcements. Join us tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. for Torah study in person and via Zoom. At 10:30 a.m., there'll be the Shabbat Minyan service in person, or you can watch it on Facebook or on YouTube, or that's it, Facebook Live and YouTube. And these are short tonight. Please check our weekly email or our website at www.tbsmb.org for information about classes and other opportunities. Shabbat Shalom, and have a wonderful weekend, everyone.
That was one of the most enthusiastic announcements. No, I haven't. I'm just really thrilled. We had enthusiastic bar mitzvahs. We had an enthusiastic little girl who was named. We had an enthusiastic speaker. What a night. This is definitely Shabbat Tekuma, of revival. It certainly revived my spirit. So, Oseh Shalom is the closing song. It's going to appear up here, and it has a page, doesn't it?
Yes, page 343.
That's what happens when you get rusty. Please rise. Oseh Shalom.
Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.